Hey biology students, this is Mrs. Miller, and today we are going to learn how to draw a cladogram. So this is going to help you with the Let's Build a Cladogram lab. If you have any questions after you're done with this, please let us know, but we're going to be building something like this. Alright everyone, so I'm going to be teaching you guys how to draw a cladogram. So for your activity, you are going to have to be filling out a table with all of the traits based on some pictures that you have. But right now, I'm just going to start with this one that's already filled out. You can see that mine doesn't have very many organisms on it, only 4. But I want to be able to just show you the basics of drawing a cladogram. So what we want to do here is we first are going to look at the traits, and I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4 organisms that I'm going to be putting on here. I like to start by drawing my cladogram as just a line like that, kind of diagonal. And what I'm going to do on here is I am then going to be looking at the numbers of traits. So when I look at the mosses, as you can see, they don't have vascular tissue, they don't have seeds, and they don't have flowers. So it says out on here. So I'm going to actually total these things up. And here I see 0 total. For the pine trees, I can see that they have 2 total. For our flowering plants, they have 3. And for our ferns, they have 1. So those, once I have them totaled, tell me how they are going to be placed on this whole thing. So what I like to do is at the very bottom is I'm going to put that 0 group. Okay, so I'm going to make a little line, and then I'm going to poorly write down mosses because I'm doing with this my finger. Okay, and that represents the one that has no traits in common. Okay, then the next one is going to be number 1 that I'm going to be putting on here, and that is going to be ferns. So I'm going to have a second line on here. And I'm going to write ferns. And then I'm going to write the trait that made those 2 different from one another. So when I look here, the only trait that ferns actually have is vascular tissue. So right here, I'm just going to write vascular tissue. I'm going to just put vasc because I'm lazy right now. Okay. So what this is telling me is that there was a common ancestor way down here that at some point we saw a branching because vascular tissue was inherited. So that meant that ferns have vascular tissue, mosses do not. All right, as we continue then, the next one that has 2 traits is going to be the pine trees. So they're going to come up next. I'm going to write pine tree on here. And the thing that makes them different is we already know that they also have vascular tissue. That's why they're going to be above this line. But the other thing that they have here is seeds. So I'm going to write seeds on here. So that tells me that pine trees have both seeds and vascular tissues. Ferns only have vascular tissues, and mosses don't have either. So the last thing that I want to do is I want to put that last organism on here. So I know I already did vascular tissue, I already did seeds, so now I'm up to flowers. So I know that flowers is going to be the next trait. And as I put this on here, that of course is going to be my flowering plants. I'm just going to put flowering plants. Mine wasn't able to fit all on there. And here I have a completed cladogram. So I can clearly tell on here that my flowering plants have flowers, seeds, and vascular tissue. My pine tree has seeds and vascular tissue. Ferns have just vascular tissue. Mosses have none. But any time that you guys are seeing this connection point right here, that is where we have a common ancestor. So I'm going to just do a big dot is equal to a common ancestor. And at that point, we saw they had a common ancestor, and then one of them continued to get some sort of adaptation. So this would be the adaptation. Oh, it's not going to fit. Ooh, kind of did. So that's the adaptation that took place. Sometimes we also refer to these adaptations as the derived characters or the derived traits. So the last couple things I want to talk about is who is most related. So when I look at all of these traits, the ones that have the most traits in common would be the most closely related. So in this case, it would be the flowers in the pine tree because they have 2 traits that are in common versus someone else might only have 1 or none that are in common. So the pine tree and the flowering plants are the most related. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.